Hey, thanks for coming back. Uh, this is, pay attention because this is an attempt by the anti-gun or gun control groups to preempt a constitutional argument. It's interesting. I think it's stupid, uh, but here's their argument, right? They're saying that we, the pro Second Amendment pro-gun group, are winning the hearts and minds of the Supreme Court uh, because our argument is constitutional, constitutionally based, um, and we don't allow emotion to get into uh, the defense of constitutional rights, especially when it comes to the idea of self-defense, which is only one part of the reason for the Second Amendment. Um, there is self-defense, defense of family, loved ones, and defense of the country. But what the anti-gun people want to say is that um, the right to self-defense, when you take it down to the individual, is wrong. They say that there are several ways that defense of oneself and one's family can be pursued. The individual right to keep and bear arms and defend oneself is one path, they say, one path, and deputizing all people to defend themselves with a firearm is, you know, okay, that's an argument. Gun regulation, gun regulation, they say, offers another approach to self-defense. They say one vastly more effective and more preferred by the American public. It represents a mode of, get this, preemptive self-defense. Write that down, boys and girls, because you're going to hear that. You're going to hear that. And this is out of a brief that was submitted by Moms Demand Action to the Supreme Court in a case that's just now going to be heard. This is how desperate the argument is. So they say, so this idea of preemptive self-defense, wait for it, whereby the state is tasked by its citizens to limit access to deadly force. Let that sink in for a minute. Their argument is that rather than support the notion that each person is responsible to be their own first responder in this self-defense, the state is tasked by its citizens with limiting access to deadly force. If you want a real example of what that looks like in practice, it is the bizarre, stupid set of laws that you find in every place that was part of the British Empire called the Offensive Weapons Laws. And second, the notion that there is no such thing, no such right to self-defense. By the way, the United Nations, in its Small Arms Treaty, and then some of the non-government organizations that they support, it's in writing that the UN and those countries that support the UN like that do not agree as a matter of policy that there's an individual right to self-defense. Now let that one sink in. And I'll be posting another video on that. So the idea is if you task the state, what you're saying is you want to use the government's regulatory authority to provide self-defense for individuals. And then it goes on to say, if you don't do that, what happens is the Second Amendment infringes on right to assembly, freedom of the press, and so forth. So they're trying to characterize the Second Amendment as a sub a sub important amendment, and that others are more important. Because if you arm people, it puts in danger uh, the right to assembly because people will be afraid, right? Well, my answer to that is don't touch yours, I won't touch mine. Um, if you assemble with the intent, like Antifa and by any means necessary, if you assemble with the intent of causing bodily injury and harm to people as a course of action, then you should expect the use of deadly force against you because that is a legal thing to do. So what this means is that the left doesn't want, they want to be able to use force against people, but not have force used, not have deadly force used against them. They want to brawl. They want to brawl and threaten people with brawling. Um, they talk about people being afraid to vote. It goes on. The scary part, and the part you need to pay attention to, is this idea that the responsibility of self-defense for the individual is now relegated to the government or to the state, and it's their job to protect us by saying use of deadly force, you can't have access to that. Well, there goes knives, there goes any other tool. You go down the slippery slope to this idea of offensive weapons. You then go down to the idea that no one, no individual has the right to defend themselves with deadly force. Only the government, the state, would have that right. So percolate on that for a minute. Think about that. Listen carefully to people who use those words, who talk about that, because that is directly coming from the United Nations and all the other countries that hate us because we have a Second Amendment and we can stand up and defend ourselves. And I get comments all the time from other countries, Canada, the UK, Germany, Australia even, that say, we had what you have. And my response is, come on down. Anyway, think about that. Go back and replay some of that, because this logic you're going to hear, and it is a desperate attempt to try to get in front of this pending Supreme Court decision. If the Supreme Court rules in this City of New York case that not only is there an individual right to keep and bear arms in the home, which was done by Heller, that right extends outside the home, it will have amazing positive effect if you love the Second Amendment across the country. To the anti-gun people, they will be terrified. To those worldwide, including those in the UN that want to push the small arms treaty still and the small arms standards still through organizing civil society, and I'm going to do another video on that. They are desperate. And they come up with these really stupid ideas. So having said that, I know it's been a little longer than I normally post, but think about that. Let it percolate. And as always, thanks for watching. Carry on.